Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, Appearance of Sri Narada. Shlok 1. Vyasa Uvacha Iti Bruvanam Sanstutya Muninam Dirghasatrinam Vrudaha Kulapatihi Sutam Brahavachaha Shaunako Bravita. Translation. On hearing Suta Goswami speak thus, Shaunak Muni, who was the elderly, learned leader of all the Rishi engaged in that prolonged sacrificial ceremony, congratulated Suta Goswami by addressing him as follows. Purport. In a meeting of learned men, when there are congratulations or addresses for the speaker, the qualifications of the congratulator should be as follows. He must be the leader of the house and an elderly man. He must be vastly learned also. Sri Shaunak Rishi had all these qualifications, and thus he stood up to congratulate Sri Suta Goswami when he expressed his desire to present Srimad Bhagavatam exactly as he heard it from Sukadeva Goswami and also realized it personally. Personal realization does not mean that one should, out of vanity, attempt to show one's own learning by trying to surpass the previous Acharya. He must have full confidence in the previous Acharya, and at the same time he must realize the subject matter so nicely that he can present the matter for the particular circumstances in a suitable manner. The original purpose of the text must be maintained. No obscure meaning should be squeezed out of it, yet it should be presented in an interesting manner for the understanding of the audience. This is called realization. The leader of the assembly, Shaunak, could estimate the value of the speaker, Sri Suta Goswami, simply by his uttering Yathadhitam and Yathamati, and therefore he was very glad to congratulate him. Ecstasy. No learned man should be willing to hear a person who does not represent the original Acharya. So the speaker as well as the audience were bona fide in this meeting where Bhagavatam was being recited for the second time. That should be the standard of recitation of Bhagavatam, so that the real purpose can be served without difficulty. Unless this situation is created, Bhagavatam recitation for extraneous purposes is useless labor both for the speaker and the audience. Shlok 2. Shaunak Uvacha Suta Suta Mahabhagavadano Vadatamavara Katham Bhagavatim Punyam Yadaha Bhagavachuka. Translation. Shaunak said, O Suta Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all those who can speak and recite. Please relate the pious message of Srimad Bhagavatam, which was spoken by the great powerful sage Sukadeva Goswami. Purport. Suta Goswami is twice addressed herein by Shaunak Goswami out of great joy because he and the members of the assembly were eager to hear the text of Bhagavatam uttered by Sukadeva Goswami. They are not interested in hearing it from a bogus person who interprets in his own way to suit his own purpose. Generally, the so-called Bhagavatam reciters are either professional readers or so-called learned impersonalists who cannot enter into the transcendental personal activities of the Supreme Person. Such impersonalists issue some meanings out of Bhagavatam to suit and support impersonalist views, and the professional readers at once go to the 10th canto to misexplain the most confidential part of the Lord's pastimes. Both these reciters are not bona fide persons to recite Bhagavatam. Only one who is prepared to present Bhagavatam in the light of Sukadeva Goswami, and only those who are prepared to hear Sukadeva Goswami and his representative are bona fide participants in the transcendental discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam. Shlok 3. Kasmin yuge pravritteyam sthane vakena hetuna kutaha sachoditaha krishnaha krutvan samhitam munihi. Translation. In what period and what place was this first begun, and why was this taken up? From where did Krishna Dvaipan Vyas, the great sage, get the inspiration to compile this literature? Purport. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is the special contribution of Srila Vyasadeva, there are so many inquiries by the learned Shaunak Muni. It was known to them that Srila Vyasadeva had already explained the text of the Vedas in various ways up to the Mahabharata for the understanding of less intelligent women, Shudras, and fallen members of the family of twice born men. Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental to all of them because it has nothing to do with anything mundane, so the inquiries are very intelligent and relevant. Shlok 4. Tasya putro mahayogi samatrin nirvikalpakaha ekantamatir unidro gudo muda iveyate. Translation. His Vyasadeva's son was a great devotee, an equibalanced monist whose mind was always concentrated in monism. He was not ignorant but was transcendental to mundane activities. Purport. Srila Sukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul, and thus he remained always alert not to be trapped by the illusory energy. In the Bhagavad Gita, this alertness is very lucidly explained. The liberated soul and the conditioned soul have different engagements. The liberated soul is always engaged in the progressive path of spiritual attainment, which is something like a dream for the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul cannot imagine the actual engagements of the liberated soul. While the conditioned soul thus dreams about spiritual engagements, the liberated soul is awake. Similarly, the engagement of a conditioned soul appears to be a dream for the liberated soul. Apparently, a conditioned soul and a liberated soul may seem to be on the same platform, but factually they are differently engaged, and their attention is always alert, either in sense enjoyment or in self-realization. The conditioned soul is absorbed in matter, whereas the liberated soul is completely indifferent to matter. This indifference is explained as follows. Shlok 5. Drushtivano yatam rushim atmajam ape anagram devyo hiya paridharduna sutasya chitram tadviksha prushchati muno jagat दुस्तावास्ति स्त्रीपुं विदा न तु सुतस्य विविक्त दृष्टे. Translation. While Sri Vyasadeva was following his son, beautiful young damsels who were bathing naked covered their bodies with cloth, although Sri Vyasadeva himself was not naked, but they did not do so when his son passed. The sage inquired about this, and the young ladies replied that his son was purified, and when looking at them made no distinction between male and female, but the sage made such distinction. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that a learned sage looks equally on the learned and gentle Brahman, a Kandil, a dog or cow due to his spiritual vision. Srila Sukadeva Goswami attained that stage. Thus, he did not see a male or female, but he saw all living entities in different dress. The ladies who were bathing could understand the mind of a man simply by studying his demeanor. Just as by looking at a child one can understand how innocent he is, Sukadeva Goswami was a young boy, 16 years old, and therefore all the parts of his body were developed. He was naked also, and so were the ladies, but because Sukadeva Goswami was transcendental to sex relations, he appeared very innocent. The ladies, by their special qualifications, could sense that at once, and therefore they were not very concerned about him. But when his father passed, the ladies quickly dressed. The ladies were exactly like his children or grandchildren, yet they reacted to the presence of Vyasadeva according to the social custom, because Srila Vyasadeva played the part of a householder. A householder has to distinguish between a male and female, otherwise, he cannot be a householder. One should therefore attempt to know the distinction between spirit soul without any attachment for male and female. As long as such a distinction is there, one should not try to become a sannyasi like Sukadeva Goswami. At least theoretically, one must be convinced that a living entity is neither a male nor female. The outward dress is made of matter by material nature to attract the opposite sex and thus keep one entangled in material existence. A liberated soul is above this perverted distinction. He does not distinguish between one living being and another. For him, they are all one and the same spirit. The perfection of this spiritual vision is a liberated stage, and Srila Sukadeva Goswami attained that stage. Srila Vyasadeva was also in the transcendental stage, but because he was in the householder's life, he did not pretend to be a liberated soul as a matter of custom. Shlok 6. Katham alakshitaha pauraha sampraptaha kuru jangalan unmat mukha jadavat vicharan jagasahavaye. Translation. How was he, Srila Sukadeva, the son of Vyas, recognized by the citizens when he entered the city of Hastinapura, now Delhi, after wandering in the provinces of Kuru and jungle, appearing like a madman, dumb and retarded? Purport. The present city of Delhi was formerly known as Hastinapura because it was first established by King Hasti. Goswami Sukadeva, after leaving his paternal home, was roaming like a madman, and therefore it was very difficult for the citizens to recognize him in his exalted position. A sage is not therefore recognized by sight but by hearing. One should approach a sadhu or great sage not to see but to hear him. If one is not prepared to hear the words of a sadhu, there is no profit. Sukadeva Goswami was a sadhu who could speak on the transcendental activities of the Lord. He did not satisfy the whims of ordinary citizens. He was recognized when he spoke on the subject of Bhagavatam, and he never attempted jugglery like a magician. Outwardly, he appeared to be a retarded, dumb madman, but in fact he was the most elevated, transcendental personality. Shlok 7. Katham va pandave yasya rajarishi munina saha samvadaha sambhutatat yatresha satvate shrutihi. Translation. How did it so happen that King Parikshit met this great sage, making it possible for this great transcendental essence of the Vedas, that is Bhagavatam, to be sung to him. Purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is stated here as the essence of the Vedas. It is not an imaginary story as it is sometimes considered by unauthorized men. It is also called Sukha Samhita or the Vedic hymn spoken by Sri Sukadev Goswami, the great liberated sage. Shlok 8. Sagodo ahan matram him gruheshu gruham medhinam avikshate mahabhagasa tirtho kurvesta ashramam. Translation. He, Sukadeva Goswami, was accustomed to stay at the door of a householder only long enough for a cow to be milked, and he did this just to sanctify the resident. Purport. Sukadeva Goswami met Emperor Parikshit and explained the text of Srimad Bhagavatam. He was not accustomed to stay at any householder's residence for more than half an hour at the time of milking the cow, and he would just take alms from the fortunate householder. That was to sanctify the residence by his auspicious presence. Therefore, Sukadeva Goswami is an ideal preacher established in the transcendental position. From his activities, those who are in the renounced order of life and dedicated to the mission of preaching the message of Godhead should learn that they have no business with householders save and except to enlighten them in transcendental knowledge. Such asking for alms from the householder should be for the purpose of sanctifying his home. One who is in the renounced order of life should not be allured by the glamour of the householder's worldly possessions and thus become subservient to worldly men. For one who is in the renounced order of life, this is much more dangerous than drinking poison and committing suicide. Shlok 9. Abhimanyu Sutam Sutta Prahur Bhagavatotam Tasya Janam Mahascharya Karmani Cha Tunihi Naha. Translation. It is said that Maharaj Parikshit is a great first class devotee of the Lord and that his birth and activities are all wonderful. Please tell us about him. Purport. The birth of Maharaj Parikshit is wonderful because in the womb of his mother he was protected by the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. His activities also wonderful because he chastised Kali, who was attempting to kill a cow. He killed cows means to end human civilization. He wanted to protect the cow from being killed by the great representative of sin. His death is also wonderful because he got previous notice of his death, which is wonderful for any mortal being, and thus he prepared himself for passing away by sitting down on the bank of the Gangas and hearing the transcendental activities of the Lord. During all the days he heard Bhagavatam, he did not take food or drink, nor did he sleep a moment. So everything about him is wonderful, and his activities are worth hearing attentively. Desire is expressed herein to hear about him in detail. Shlok 10th. Sasamrat kasyavahitoho pandunam manavardhanaha prayopavishto gangayam anadrutyadhirat shriyam. Translation. He was a great emperor and possessed all the opulences of his acquired kingdom. He was so exalted that he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. Why did he give up everything to sit down on the bank of the Gangas and fast until death? Purport. Maharaj Parikshit was the emperor of the world and all the seas and oceans, and he did not have to take the trouble to acquire such a kingdom by his own effort. He inherited it from his grandfathers, Maharaj Yudhishthira and brothers. Besides that, he was doing well in the administration and was worthy of the good names of his forefathers. Consequently, there was nothing undesirable in his opulence and administration. Then why should he give up all these favorable circumstances and sit down on the bank of the Gangas, fasting till death? This is astonishing, and therefore all were eager to know the cause. Shlok 11. Namanti yatpadaniketamātmanah शिवाय हानिय धनानि शत्रवः कथं सवीरः श्रियम् अंगः दुस्त्यजाम युवैश्यतोस्त्रष्टुमहो साहसुभिः. Translation. He was such a great emperor that all his enemies would come and bow down at his feet and surrender all their wealth for their own benefit. He was full of youth and strength, and he possessed insuperable kingly opulences. Why did he want to give up everything, including his life? Purport. There was nothing undesirable in his life. He was quite a young man and could enjoy life with power and opulence. So there was no question of retiring from active life. There was no difficulty in collecting the state taxes because he was so powerful and chivalrous that even his enemies would come to him and bow down at his feet and surrender all wealth for their own benefit. Maharaj Parikshit was a pious king. He conquered his enemies, and therefore the kingdom was full of prosperity. There was enough milk, grains, and metals, and all the rivers and mountains were full of potency. So, materially, everything was satisfactory. Therefore, there was no question of untimely giving up his kingdom and life. There was eager to hear about all these. Shlok 12. Shivaya lokasya bhavaya bhutaye य उत्तम श्लोक परायणा जनाः जीवन्ति हि न आत्मार्थमसो पराश्रमय मुमोच निर्विद्य कुतः कलेवरम्. Translation. Those who are devoted to the cause of the personality of Godhead live only for the welfare, development, and happiness of others. They do not live for any selfish interest. So, even though the Emperor Parikshit was free from all attachment to worldly possessions, how could he give up his mortal body, which was shelter for others? Purport. Parikshit Maharaj was an ideal king and householder because he was a devotee of the personality of Godhead. A devotee of the Lord has automatically all good qualities, and the emperor was a typical example of this. Personally, he had no attachment for all the worldly opulences in his possession, but since he was king for the all-round welfare of his citizens, he was always busy in the welfare work of the public, not only for this life but also for the next. He would not allow slaughterhouses or killing of cows. He was not a foolish and partial administrator who would arrange for the protection of one living being and allow another to be killed. Because he was a devotee of the Lord, he knew perfectly well how to conduct his administration for everyone's happiness, men, animals, plants, and all living creatures. He was not selfishly interested. Selfless is either self-centered or self-extended. He was neither. His interest was to please the Supreme Truth Personality of Godhead. The king is the representative of the Supreme Lord, and therefore the king's interest must be identical with that of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord wants all living beings to be obedient to him and thereby become happy. Therefore, the king's interest is to guide all subjects back to the kingdom of God. Hence, the activities of the citizens should be so coordinated that they can at the end go back home, back to Godhead. Under the administration of a representative king, the kingdom is full of opulence. At that time, human beings need not eat animals. There is ample food, grains, milk, fruit, and vegetables so that the human beings as well as the animals can eat sumptuously and to their heart's content. If all living beings are satisfied with food and shelter and obey the prescribed rules, there cannot be any disturbance between one living being and another. Emperor Parikshit was a worthy king and therefore all were happy during his reign. Shlok 13. Tat sarva nahasama chakshva पृष्ठो यदिह किंचन मनेत्वाम विषये वाचाम स्नातम अन्यत्र छंद सात. Translation. We know that you are expert in the meaning of all subjects except some portions of the Vedas, and thus you can clearly explain the answers to all the questions we have just put to you. Purport. The difference between the Vedas and the Puranas is like that between the Brahmanas and the Parivarjakas. The Brahmanas are meant to administer some fruitive sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas, but the Parivarjakacharyas or learned preachers are meant to disseminate transcendental knowledge to one and all. As such, the Parivarjakacharyas are not always expert in pronouncing the Vedic mantras, which are practiced systematically by ancient and mid by the Brahmanas, who are meant for administering Vedic rites. Yet it should not be considered that the Brahmanas are more important than the itinerant preachers. They are one and different simultaneously because they are meant for the same end in different ways. There is no difference also between the Vedic mantras and what is explained in the Puranas and Itihas. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, it is mentioned in the Madhyantana Shruti that all the Vedas, namely the Sama, Atharva, Rug, Yuj, Puranas, Itihasas, Upanishads, etc., are emanations from the breathing of the Supreme Being. The only difference is that the Vedic mantras are mostly begun with Pranava Omkara, and it requires some training to practice the metric pronunciation of the Vedic mantras. But that does not mean that Srimad Bhagavatam was of less importance than the Vedic mantras. On the other hand, it is the ripened fruit of all the Vedas as stated before. Besides that, the most perfectly liberated soul, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, is absorbed in the studies of the Bhagavatam, although he is already self-realized. Srila Sukadeva Goswami is following his footsteps, and therefore his position is not the least less important because he was not expert in chanting Vedic mantras with metric pronunciation, which depends more on practice than actual realization. Realization is more important than parrot-like chanting.